Well, hello and good morning, class 12th. Today I'm going to take up a topic of writing that is given in your course as well. That is the speech making. Not speech making actually, it is a speech writing. See, these are two different things. Speech making is different, whereas speech writing is different. For example, you must be aware that great leaders have their speech writers also. In certain cases, they write their speeches themselves, but in certain cases, they have the writers. For example, till last time, the great poet Javed Akhtar used to write the speeches of Sonia Gandhi ji. But I have also read about various people, for example, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln used to think over and write his speech over and over again. And over a very long period of time, he would think over it in great detail and then he would deliver it. Even when he would go for a morning ride on a horseback, he would be brooding over. Brooding over means thinking over, mulling over, pondering over all the points of the speech that he had to deliver. So such had been the craze for speech making. And you must have heard about various famous speeches. For example, Julius Caesar's speech, that is ironical in tone. Then there is irony is also a very important part of speech making. Then there is a speech by this Vivekananda that was given in Chicago. The address you might hear it. It is available in the net. Similarly, there was a speech made by this King Martin Luther. I have a dream. After a few sentences, he says, "I have a dream." That is anaphora. That is the example of this. That is actually a figure of speech. For example, you must have heard Modi speaking in Bengal, "Didi, oh Didi." This is also anaphora. That is also a tactics that is applied in speech making. And speech making is always written in very usual and ordinary style, but it has very catchy phrases and catchy words also, so that it might attract the attention of the people. Because the ultimate thing that the speech does is that it creates an impression upon the minds of the people. And if they can carry your message for a long period of time, then your purpose is served. Anyways, we'll discuss a few points here. First is salutation, because we are not talking about the delivery of speech. Instead, we are talking of writing of speech. How you will be writing it for your exams. First thing is salutation. For example, you might say distinguished guests. You might say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You might use any other term. For example, august gathering, or the esteemed guests, you might call them, or in whatever manner. Means there must be some kind of salutation. If you are present in the school, you are delivering a speech within the school campus, or if you have to write a speech about that, then naturally you will be addressing the principal and the teachers, and then my dear friends or my dear fellow students, like that. So salutation is also a very necessary part. Then body consists of various things. Body consists of all the ideas that you have to deliver during the time of speech. Of how you deliver them, see, points to be delivered in sequence. You must have a framework for that. You must decide as to what or in what manner you will be delivering the speech, or the same pattern must be followed while writing it. So you must have a sequence of things that you have to speak. Similarly, you have to write, and then comes argue and suggest solutions. See, you must argue those points, and you must also present your viewpoint. Strongly, you must present your viewpoint. Then comes central message. Central message must not be missed out. See, what you really wish to say, you must say it, and that too very authoritatively, and as far as possible in a catchy language. That will be very good for you. So central message must be given and it must not be left out. Not that you have taken digression. Digression means going beyond the topic, means deviating from the right topic. That should not happen. Instead, it must be the central message must not be missed out and it must be said in the most impressive manner. Then comes language must be colloquial. Colloquial means of conversational standard. It must be written in such a way as if we are talking to an audience. But it must be catchy. It must be catchy. Catchy means it must catch the attention of the people. And that's why you see advertisers, what do? Even the tomato wala who sells tomatoes outside our house, he also calls out surkh tomato. He would never say tomato because tomato cannot speak for itself. It is the seller or the greengrocer who makes it look something imaginative to you. And if he says surkh tomato, you see he is promoting it. So similarly, the talks also must be a little bit dramatized. So similarly, the words also must be somewhat dramatic. So language must be colloquial, but it must be slightly dramatic also, I will say. See, as Roosevelt said, don't think what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but think what you can do for your country. See, this is the language of the speech. Similarly, and see, another one thing is poetic lines. If you have any poetic lines to support your argument, that will be the best thing. Because speech making is not telling the truth only. It is actually promoting your own idea. It is promoting your own idea. And that's why you must have seen that they have great theatrical tricks. Those who are speakers, they have great theatrical tricks. Theatrical tricks means they know how to act. And sometimes what they are saying is not truthful, but it has to be said or it has to be delivered in a way that may sound very honest and sincere. And that's why sometimes you must have seen that the speakers say that I shall not deliver a speech here. I am here to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. Now, this is also a nuskha. This is just a trick. Poetic lines and humor. And humor also, you can add humor to it in any way you like. So humor is also an essential part. That these are the parts of the speech making, which is to be delivered and which is to be written. So these all things must be kept in mind. Halaki, when you have a message, then it must be framed properly. It must be framed properly. Its language must be nice, and it must have catchy words. It must have the ability to arrest the attention of the listener's mind or the reader's mind when you write it on in your notebook. I'll tell you two. One thing that is often said in Hindi is कि सीने में आग आग में आहन भी चाहिए और रिमझिम बरसता बातों से सावन भी चाहिए. यानी कि सीने में आग, यानी कि it should sound like that, as if the person has fire within his heart. सीने में आग आग में आहन भी चाहिए. It must have those flames. और रिमझिम बरसता बातों से सावन भी चाहिए. It means that there must be some amount of sweetness or melody in one's speech. Then only you see it will be heard and will be valued in its context. And of course, you see here poetic lines doesn't mean only poetic lines. You might also take allusions. Allusions means indirect references to the books, etc. You might take. And then, for example, if you are talking of the pride of ladies, etc. कि नारी कल भी भारी थी, नारी आज भी भारी है, पुरुष कल भी आभारी था, पुरुष आज भी आभारी है. Such kind of sentences, what do? They add spark to your speech making, and that is what is necessary. If you are otherwise going to just deliver a speech which does not have any such material or any such additions, then it will sound more like a paper read from the book. Anyways, I'll take up a speech. Now see here, I'm going to take up a speech which I'll be reading to you. It says you are Raghav Reshma. You have been asked to deliver a speech on shifting values among young teenagers. Write a speech with the help of the inputs given below. So the inputs that have been given here are self-esteem, identity crisis, impact of popular culture, then experimentation, then rebellion, breaking the rule, inappropriate behavior, and peer pressure. These are the points that have been made here, and you have to write accordingly. Now see, for example, he says respected principal, teachers, and friends. This is salutation. And then I'm here to speak on the burning issue of shifting values among young teenagers. Burning issue means the current issue, which is very important. And times have changed, values have changed. Today's youth is not the docile teenager of 1960s and 70s who are totally a subdued, disciplined, obedient child of his parents. Because what he wants to say is that they are not like the previous generations which would hear you like a subdued animal or a hackneyed animal, who always put the wishes, honors, and opinion of his elders and parents before his own, who had no clash of personalities, because now there is a clash of personalities. They begin to argue with their parents also, who did not break the rules. Now you see, they did not break the rules. Now today's youngsters are not, they are not mealy-mouthed, means they do not eat less. They are voracious eaters, means they are heavy eaters, readers, teenagers. Now, see, readers, he means to say that they watch things, they hear things, they are in contact with the social media, etc. In this regard, he says that. And you see, they give a lot to their own self-esteem and get into an identity crisis. They have the identity crisis, they get into trouble soon, and they have that complex. They are rebels and break free if the reins of discipline are tightened. Means if you try to impose discipline upon them, then they are going to break the rules. Another thing about them is that they are open to any popular belief. So in that way, they are upward looking. Means they look towards anything new. One positive thing about today's youngster is that he is not afraid to experiment and hence finds ways to go forward and progress. But one negative thing is that today's youngster resorts to inappropriate behavior, gets caught in an identity crisis, and gets tagged as a rebellious. Thank you all for hearing me with patience, he says. See the points that he had to make. He has made them very directly, and although no impressive thing has been said here except what is known to you, it would be better if you could add something from your own side. You could take examples also in the here which might make a better impression on the readers.